We're on a webinar tonight, like you didn't know that, on the 5-minute full circle trades and the strategy and the indicators and everything else. This is more of a, I guess, an introduction, if you will, to the world of 5-minute binaries and what they really are. If you would have told me a year ago that you're going to be trading on 5-minute binaries with real money, I would have laughed my ass off at you. I began doing these systems out there for training people in Trader's Mind series using 5-minute binaries, but only as a demo to teach you what and sort of mold you, temper you, if you will, into the world of trading. What is a 5-minute full circle trade? Well, on Nadex, there are the 5-minute binaries, nadex.com. If you're not familiar with Nadex, I highly suggest going over and having a look at them. Even join our dexsignals.com network for free, and you'll learn a lot about Nadex from that process in there as well, because we have a series in there that we have for free called Nadex Ninja. You can also look up just a whole bunch of stuff online. It's a regulated company over here in the United States and very reputable throughout the process. Now, we don't make any money for doing that either, by the way. We don't affiliate ourselves or make any money from them whatsoever. Except for trading, of course. On their site, they have 4 assets in a 5-minute binary, and they use the AUD USD, the Euro USD, the British Gold Pound USD, and the USD JPY. Each has a 5-minute expiry. There's 12 of them an hour, so they start from the beginning of the top of the hour, and they go around all the way around to the 55-minute mark, to where the last one ends back at the top of the hour, where it recycles and starts all over again. That gives you an opportunity of about 12 per hour, right? Pretty cool. But you got to think about it. There's 4 pairs. So there's an opportunity of about 48 opportunities during 1 hour that you can get into a trade. Not saying you're going to get into all 48. You're not going to be able to do 4 that fast in less than a minute. So we're going to show you some tactics here and some things that we're going to be doing here. I originally stated that 5-minute binary was good for training only, and that's why we've come full circle. Starting out with the process of telling you that it's really just about training, and then really starting to find the secret, the flow, if you will, of the process. And plus, back then too, I didn't really have the indication system down as I have now. We were testing strategies. We had a strategy tester. We were testing our process. So it was really about finding the right indicators to give us the right connection, right? And as we started to really look at our theories of price action and utilizing support and resistance and trend, we began to couple and group together and pair together a few indicators that really did the job well. Now, 2 of those are on our DEX Indicators site, dexindicator.net, and that's our DEX support and resistance and our trend reversal indicator. 2 systems that we've created to be able to sort of counteract the craziness of that 5-minute period. Now, as you all know, I tout training, following the discipline of a good flow. You can trade any strategy and make money. And that's no lie. You definitely can do that. In our Trader's Mind series, we show you how to follow these flows and start to navigate that process of learning how to follow the rule set that you set for the process. Now, you don't have to worry about setting the rules and everything else for 5-minute here, because I've already done it for you. I'm already going to show you in this training, as well as training that's on the site, that will be on the site here by the end of this evening, and a few other things that will be at your disposal with that process. Between these 2, we perfected this flow and this discipline. And when I say perfected, I really mean perfected. That these 3 or 4 things that you're going to be doing and following, if you follow them to a T, will win more trades than you lose. A lot more than you lose, right? I'm looking at above 90% success right now. Out of the 75 now that I've done, I've lost 2. So what is that? Let me see what that is here. Let's see. I'm pretty sure one of you people can actually do this in your head, right? Hang on 1 second. Of course, the calculator's fritzing out on me right now. God figure. Try again. Nope. Calculator is not liking life right at the moment. No, I know it's above 90%. So there you go. Take that. But And here I'm saying that there's not going to be any 97.5. Thank you very much, Rudy. I appreciate it. Person with the calculator. Nice. Um, but at 97.5%, even if you trade that as many times as you possibly could getting in there, we don't trade every 97.33333. Thanks, Michael Senior. I appreciate it. To be a little bit more accurate, but either way, thanks a lot. 75 and 2 is not bad, right? But the understanding here is that you're not going to be taking every single signal that comes over. You're not going to be going after 4 or 3 or 4 per trade. You're really looking only for 1 or 2 per hour, 3 maybe at the most. The rules are really simple. And once you get to see it inside, and I'll start to apply this, and it's going to be repetition. You're going to either come back to this webinar again, or you're going to watch the training, or you're going to be doing these yourself. Okay. No matter what I show you tonight in training, okay, it's not going to mean squat until you start doing it yourself, until you start following the program, until you start using the indicators that we have. Okay. And really, if you can figure out the process, it's all in you. You got it. You got the big show happening for you now, because you have an opportunity to take the same thing and apply it not only to a 5-minute trade, which I'll show you here in a little bit, but to other time frames. It's pretty big. All right, so let's talk about the rules, right? First and foremost, do not trade news. Do not trade news. Do not trade news. Do not trade news. Does anybody here trade news? No. You don't trade news with this 5-minute system, only because at the time that it's trading news, you're jumping so much that it's crazy. 15 minutes, maybe half hour at the most. Maybe it all really depends. But 15 minutes, I'd say 15 minutes before news, and about a half hour to an hour after news. Avoid the hour altogether if you have to. Right? You're talking that if you're trading 5-minute binaries, you really just have to kind of stay away from news at a point, because what does it really look like through the day, right? My smiley face. News, this is the beginning part of your trade time, right? And during your trade time, that maybe you got an hour, maybe 3 hours. Maybe there's news only in this hour, but then there's a big giant free open circle that you have, and you're going to trade in this hour. Maybe this is only an hour and a half, right? An hour and 15 minutes. It doesn't matter, right? At this time, you have 12. What is that? So right around 15, 16 opportunities to trade times 4 possibilities during this 1.5 hour, 1.25 hour time period, right? If this is 2 hours, then you have a tremendous amount of opportunity in there, rather than sitting there for news that you can only trade because the long period, 2.5 hour trade time is in this news period and is in this news period. And you lose that opportunity, right? Because your time to trade is within 2 news trades, and there's just an empty void in the middle. With 5-minute binaries, you could actually trade in the middle there, right? So pretty powerful, knowing not to trade the news. All right, very simple. The next part of the process is that there's arrows that show up on the system. I'm going to show you what a sell signal looks like here in just a minute. But we have found that when the arrow shows up on, because remember, it's every 5-minute period is comprised of the 5 minutes, right? So if it comes out at the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and then of course at the end of the 4, which is the beginning of the 5th, which is it's over at that point. When a signal comes out on the 3 or 4 minute of that time period, or the 8 or the 9 of that time period, for the very next 5-minute trading time that's going to be on Nadex, that's what that signal is for, not for the current one where it comes on the 3 and the 4, but for the very next one. And you'll see that in the system. We then search for an SR level, support or resistance level, above or below, depending on the direction. Okay. If there isn't one that's within a certain pip range, okay, or maybe there's not one at all right there for really far away, like 10, 20, 30 pips, then we can use the tip of the arrow as an opportunity. But also keep in mind, there are so many opportunities that come along. We don't want to push the stress of the trade. You're looking for perfection, right? And in an hour, there's 48 opportunities for that to happen. And I'm saying it's pretty damn good. And at 97.5% success rate, those numbers should be rocking you right now, right? If during the trade, if you get into a trade, let's say at the 5 minute, or it's a brand new, and you're into the trade, and an arrow comes up in the opposite direction anytime during that trade, get out, right? Just get out. It's what we call a reversal. I've only had one out of the 75 so far. Now I've had them in the other ones, and I've had them in back testing, which I'll show you. And I'm guesstimating here, but you'll probably get one or two out of 100 that'll happen that way. Okay, so you're not going to go through a lot of them. All right. I've also become accustomed to scalping the trades, okay, before they get to expiry. Now I have a little method that I'll show you inside there too on when the movement of the price goes to a certain level within the trade, it's not really called a deviation, but it really does deviate one SR level down. I'll then keep that all the way to expiry. If it's sort of bouncing around before the last 30 seconds, I might decide to get out, because the closer to the expiry that you get with a 5-minute trade, the more volatile the price becomes and gets really crazy. Okay. And on the sell, there's a special requirement on a sell signal that you have to add 2 pips to extend it higher. And I'll show you that here in the sell process. As we said, the sell arrow appears on a 3 or 4. Right? The down arrow will appear on the one after the times on the chart. Here, let me show you what that looks like. Okay. Here's just a quick snapshot, and then I'll get you over to the actual chart itself. But on the action, now again, if you need to, there is a little button up here to the top right-hand corner that will expand the screen so you can see it better. Okay. My screen is blank. Is it supposed to be like this? And the answer is no. Is anybody else's screen blank? I'm not sure why, Heidi. You might want to try refreshing the web page that you're on. Maybe maybe your flash froze on the process. Joe says I'm blank. All good here. I'm not sure what type of system you're using. You might want to use a different browser if you have it. If you're on Explorer, change to Chrome. If you're on Chrome, change to Explorer. Sometimes newer versions of either browser kind of messes up a little bit. But you can also contact support on the network, and we'll get you this particular. It's being recorded, so we'll get you the recording here as well. So if it does work its way around, if not, then we'll make it up to you. I promise. Okay, so as you can kind of see right here, right where that little yellow dot is. Let me try to change the color of this. Here we go. Right where this red dot is here, you see a little arrow. And I know it's kind of hard to see on your screen. If you can expand, you can kind of see it. And this is when the arrow shows up on this bar. And we call this on the 8. It'll be on the 9 or the 3 or the 4, right? And so when it shows up on this particular bar, what it has actually done is that on this bar here, the very next bar, that's when it really does come out. And some people will say, well, that's repainting. Well, not really. I've created it this way because what I'm trying to do is show the extension of direction with the trend system, okay? And the 2 indicators that we use will give me that opportunity, but I want to show it that it's on that 9, so it'll give you that precision of that direction, okay? Because I need that previous bar for that arrow to be on. It was more of a visual thing. I could have it show up exactly when it decides that it is a signal for that direction, but it doesn't make any sense since we're trading it on that anyway. By the time it gets to the 8 or 9 and shows up on the 0 or the 9, you're ready anyway. You're going to be in within that first minute of the trade, which is one of the good refresh on fire. Good, that's great, Josh. Thank you. Or Joe H. But yeah, so there is a process when that you see that arrow and it comes out, it's going to be on this bar. So, right. So don't panic if you don't see one by the 8 or the 9. You keep looking, you keep watching. Once you see it appear, it'll usually appear on the very next bar on the 9 or the 0 or the 4 or the 5. Okay. So if it does appear, once it does appear, if it's for a sell like this one is here, okay, you're going to look for a support line. Okay, when it's above, it's support. When it's below, it's resistance. So you're going to look for a support line like this red line here. Let me now turn it back to yellow, like this yellow line right here, right? Or orange now. And what you're looking above that arrow, okay, which is pointing down, you're looking for an arrow above, is the number that that line is at, right? So if you go all the way over to the right, when we get over to MetaTrader and show you, there'll be a price. So on that price, especially on a sell signal, remember you have to add 2 pips. You want to add 2 pips higher, okay? 2 pips higher on a sell, right? And the reason being is that Nadex uses an indicative price. We're using spot forex on this indicator for now. Once we get Nadex's API, which is this week, we'll now then be able to make a very special indicator just for these 5-minute signals with the actual indicative involved, which I'm very excited to be one of the only companies in the world to have that. But in this particular case, you add 2 pips higher for the Nadex trade. And we're going to show you this when we're trading live here too in just a second. All right. So if let's just say this is a 112.00, okay, you would add it to 112.02, okay, and that's the strike you would look for on Nadex. Anything close to that. All right. And then once you get in, you'll set the expiry time, of course, which is that 5 minutes. You'll wait for that price. Now on the price side of it, okay, now you all know there's a profit on the sell side. And when you're getting in, you want to stay above $20, right? I floated down to 18, okay, on profit margin, okay, but I really don't like doing that because after fees, it's knocking down to 17, and that's a pretty big opportunity. If it does lose, you're losing 90 something or 80 something, $82. And I want to keep it above 20. I want to make $20 or more. I like that 20-80 rule, right? I'll even do them sometimes for 22 because I want to offset the fees and the cost of the system, all right, of Nadex, so the $1.80 in and out. And that's basically what a sell side looks like. And we'll show you that live here in a second. If there isn't a arrow above, let's say it's like this one that's over here, and there's no clear resistance line or support line over here, you might use the tip of the arrow as the mark that you would set a line at and add 2 pips above the tip of the arrow. And that would be your strike price that you would look for on Nadex. The reason why sometimes it won't have one above it that you're going to see, because you would have to expand it out to see a macro look, which I'll show you as well. But you can do that. You can use that if you just haven't had, maybe the pairs in a particular system in there or what have you, but you're getting clear, consistent lines that are saying, hey, this is going to be a down, it's going to be a sell, it's going to be a sell. Then this is one you could use, but remember, it's a little higher risk. But if you're waiting for perfection, wait for it to set up something close as possible to that line within reason, and you got good money on the trade. Why wait for anything else, right? Why push it to try to get into a signal when there's so many that are coming, right? If you got the time, if you got the energy, wait for the proper one. A buy signal is just what I said in reverse, okay? You're waiting for and you can barely see it. It's right there, and I do apologize, but there's an arrow right there, and I probably should try to find a way to make this a little bit bigger on the system so I could do these webinars. But there is an arrow right there, and it comes out on that, and this one was on the 8, okay? But it actually showed up on the 9 for the for the next 5-minute trade. Now you're going to say, well, wait a minute. If I follow the tip, then it looks like I could possibly have lost. Well, you wouldn't have followed the tip on this one because you had a support line right there. Okay, so you would have gotten to the support line. Okay, you would have came down to that, and let's just say that this was 112. Let me say 112.00. Okay, and at that support line, you would have came directly at that. Anything close to that, you could have possibly even came in a pip, because remember the indicative price on Nadex is about 1.5 pips higher. So you could have come in at that, right at that line, just right over it, or just right on that side, within that 2 pip in the mean, right? So somewhere in there. So if it straddles it, that's okay. We have a high rate of success from that position on. Okay, so when it's a buy signal from that period, all right. And once again, as you can kind of see, even in this example here, it's easy enough to see that this was a winner for that process. This line being the expiry. All right. Now, knowing the 2 pip rule on the sell side, very important. From the buy side, you're sort of clean just to go right at the line, and you have a very good opportunity. Again, staying at $20 and higher, okay, if you can, right? You don't want to push it. Like I don't want to. Like last week on Thursday, I pushed it. I pushed it online, which I shouldn't have. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I definitely learned from my mistakes. So when that happened, I sort of decided that I wasn't going to be doing that anymore. That's why I went back into the process. Now I've had one other natural loss from the process. Okay, another big question before we start showing the trades and what we're doing and how we're doing and start showing some live stuff is how many times can I trade this? Of course, we talked about this a little bit. There's 12 opportunities for each pair in that 5-minute hour. There are 48 opportunities per hour, but let's be real. You're not going to trade those, right? You're waiting for perfection. We're looking for CVG. If nobody knows what CVG is here and you know me personally, then or know the company or what have you, shame on you. But if you don't know what it is by now, but if you do know what consistency plus volume equals goal, if you don't know what it is, it's where we get consistent with getting into the trades and finding perfection and making sure that we're winning so much more than we're losing. Once we're to that point, okay, and only until we're to that point, do we add more volume. And the volume is not the amount of trades we do. The amount of volume is considered in the contracts on Nadex. So if you're trading with one contract and you have it consistent, you're winning 97, 95% and above on them, then you're simply going to add more contracts. If you're only trading one at a time, you might just add two. But you got to make sure your balance can back it up, right? You got to put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing, right? You got to make sure that your wallet can handle it, right? Because you're not here to risk to ruin, even though that you win 20. And don't go out and trade 20 of these and go, oh, I got this. Let me add $1,000 at a time. No, you're going to lose. Trust me. That type of mentality never gets anybody anywhere. All right. There's a lot of broke people out there that are all touting that I had a strategy and I worked it and then it started to fail on me. Well, 90% of the time, and I can attribute this because I personally have done it myself, the strategy doesn't fail. The individual fails because it's really all about numbers and consistency and discipline. You just have to follow it. Right. All right. I'll get off my box now. Now, before we go on, I start showing you this stuff. Audi News at 7:30. Yeah, I realize that, Amy, and I'll make sure that it doesn't really matter at this point because I'm going to be doing the other ones, and also, there might be void trading news and all that stuff. But I want to show you some of the stuff that's happening. And again, keep this in mind. There is news trading, so one of the main things that we won't be trading news. But I want to show you the process, how it looks. So you're not going to hold these ones against me, and I won't even count these tonight from the process. I just want to show you that they're working and the system itself. It's up to you to prove the process on the solution here, okay? Because this system, this program, this company is proud behind its customer results. And we post them all day long. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we post in customer results. The system works. You just have to find your process to get in there and make it work. Our DEX Signals network works. We get some people who ask us, hey, there's, I just got in or I just started and I'm not really through all the training yet. You got to go through all the training. You got to do the work. You got to put the time in. You got to figure it out because it does work. Okay. We have a lot of people in this network and this system that is working for. Okay. For those that say they can't make it work because you can't figure it out or there's no money on the trades when I get there on the dailies, you're not doing them correctly. Right. It's the same thing with DEX Indicator and this 5-minute trade. You have to put the time in to do it. Jim asks, what's the best time to trade this system? Anytime that there's not news with 5-minute trading. Anytime there's not news. There's even an opportunity that this will work on intraday and dailies on the system as well, as long as you're a news avoidance. Now, I haven't tested it through the news, so I can't really tell you 100% sure if you shouldn't trade news, but all my experience, all my gut, everything tells me steer the hell away from news. It's unreliable. Right? Red flag, orange flag, 2 bull, 3 bull. Again, I don't know all the specifics because the process itself is fairly new. Now, when I say fairly new, I've back tested months and months and months and months and months and months on all 4 pairs, and I can't make it fall below 95% ever. Right? And that's if I trade every single one that gives me a signal. So if I avoid news, if I follow my rules, if I only get in the ones that are perfect, I could be even higher. I'm at 97.5. I could probably even be even higher than that because that one was a bullshit mistake that I should have steered away from. But I'd be 1 out of 75 now, which is a little bit higher, right? Here's even a time that it was even higher than that. I won't go into that number because it's too perfect. But okay, so let's talk about some of these other things. In round one training, if you do get into this, if you do get into the process, trade it in demo only, of course, but trade 100 trades to get your personal success ratio. Get some data behind you. Find out what works, what doesn't work. Maybe Jimmy, maybe somebody trades the news. Maybe you trade right through the whole entire day. I don't care at that point. You're trading demo, it's data. That's what you're looking for, right? Don't add anything else into it. Don't add, special levels and time frames and other things. Add only what, news or not news or what have you, but trade it just straight like I'm just teaching it right now. Don't add anything else. Don't try to make it your own. Don't try to do anything else. Just trade it just exactly like I stated now. And then in the rule sheet that you're trading at this level, you're trading at that process, and follow those rules. Trade 100 trades exactly like that and get your personal success ratio. If you're 90% and above, you're winning. You're winning big. Okay? If you make a mistake, here's another piece of advice. If you make a mistake, get out right away. Get out for a loss. I'm telling you, if you pick the wrong direction, you go, ah, man, I got in the wrong direction. Let me see what happens. Get out. Don't pay yourself and don't congratulate yourself on making a mistake ever, right? Even if like you put 10 contracts in, you're like, oh, no, get out. Just get out. Take the loss, take the run, go, right? You're making a journal of all these trades. Copy and paste it. Take the time to do that because it's data, and data is king in this industry. If you want to learn, if you want to be successful, you're not going to rely on me and signals for the rest of your life. You're not going to rely on certain circumstances and situations and indicators all your life. You're going to learn how to, well, you probably rely on indicators for the rest of your life with it because everybody does. Everybody has indicators. You're not just going to go and guess and automatically know a direction, right? Unless you got a computing mind. All right. So you might rely on these indicators, and it'd be nice because I would love to see you work this thing out so you're making so much money it never worries you to pay for these indicators. Okay. But make a journal, get the data behind you. Also, in the very beginning, don't be crazy. Don't be trading 10, 15, 20 signals. Don't do that. Don't try to stroke your ego or your balance in your demo account or anything else. Trade one contract at a time. You're not looking on how much money you can make during that time. You're looking for consistency of wins. That's it, right? So don't be trading 20 on one just to kind of beef up. Well, I made $17,000 in a day. There's no need for that. Go play Monopoly if you want to dream. If you want to play the Barbie Funhouse, go do that. But don't do it here. Don't do it in your personal trading time. Okay, you're here to learn. You're here to learn that process. So if you can, just trade the one contract at a time, make note of what they are, and do the work behind the trade. Round two. Once you get to that 100 trades, you're now going to bump it up because the reason why you're going to bump it up to this level is because there is something that I'm going to have you do during the solution in scalping. We're going to give you a buffer. When you're trading one, you can't split it, right? So you might even take this out and only trade 4, right? Make it, or even if you keep it to 5, here, I'll show you the tactic that you're going to use. But you're going to mark down in a journal also your personal success from this, doing 5 trades. Because when it comes time to scalp, if you feel well enough, scalp off 3 of the contracts. Leave the other 2 to go to expiry, right? And this is a strategy of letting a portion of it ride to an end. So if the 2 lose, the other 3 will help offset the overall amount, right? But also, if they do win, you're going to win almost 50% more of your profit margin from that point, or things like 25% more overall. Okay. One of these 2 rounds, once these 2 rounds are complete, you are in a positive success ratio. Then you can consider trading live at that point, because then you have the system down, you have the process down, you know the flow, you got the timing, you're really into it, you got the money management down, you got the risk management down, you got scalping down, you can put working orders on, you can take profits, you can do all that stuff, because in the more advanced trading of this strategy, you're going to learn all these things, and they're going to be in the training that's inside Dex Indicators. I'm only going to give you a little bit tonight, just a beef of it, just so you can see it, the chicken on the stick, if you will. All right. And then here's what I want you to do is that I want you to share your results with us over at Dex Indicators or even at Dex Signals. It's all the same. But I want you to share those results with us. And in turn, I will sit down with you and consult with you as many times as you need to get this thing going. Okay. I'll go through your data. I'll look at the data. I'll see what you're doing. If you feel like you're doing something wrong or you're missing something, I'll help you correct. My goal, the mantra of this company, the mission statement of this company is to help as many people as possible get to their idea of success. If you want to be successful in this, that's what you got to focus on is the training, association, duplication. You really got to follow those processes every single day. Maybe some of you went out and you tried to find another system out there, somebody else who wants to train, who has the passion, who has the drive to make something work, and it all turns out to be BS. Some of you are skeptical of the process. I don't blame you. I've been there myself. I'd be asking the same questions. I got an email this evening about something just like that. And it's tough as an owner of a company. Like some say, it's misleading, but it's not. We're not misleading anybody. We're telling it like it is. We have nothing to hide in this process. You have to do the work behind it. You got to do the training. You got to follow through the process. All right, let's trace some. Let's jump over and have a look. Okay, now remember, even when I hit desktop, and I'm going to be sharing my screen here, on the right-hand side up here, right under the, there's like a little button that says maximize. It says go full screen. Okay, so you have maximize, and then right to the word maximize, you got a full screen. It's going to make you go to full screen. You want to do that. You want to take it to full screen so you can see it. I'll try to keep the chat room open and having a look, but I'm probably going to be moving it around a lot. All right, so please bear in mind. Also, there's news happening, so I'm not going to guarantee anything, right? But I'm not afraid to get in there and trade it. So let's get in there and have a look. The first thing I do is, and again, this is going to be just a little bit of help for some of you. Let's see if I can get this chat room open there too, just in case. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat room. I'll try to answer while we're doing this. But what I'd like to do is, let me see if I can spread it over. On Windows, on my system, you guys might have Mac. I don't know if Macs do this. If you pull all the way over the screen, it puts it on half. And then on the other half, I have my Foursquare. You could do it like this, right? But it gets everything scrunched up. Here's what I like to do. I like to get my screen and shrink it down. Oops. Just a little bit of how I trade. At least. Okay. Now, once you get your setup over here, you got it on the 5-minute binaries, all that's great. You want to get your setup happening on your Nadex chart. Now, once you get into Dex, you'll get support and resistance and trend, the Dex trend reverse. And that's the two that I have on here right now. Okay. And you can kind of see that by these two systems in here that are on here. Each one comes with its own amount of variables. The system trains you on how to use each one. Very simple. It's basically all out of the box too. You're not really changing anything. If your background isn't white, it's okay. You can change everything in the system and learn how to do all that stuff with inside Dex Indicators as well. Okay. Here are the arrows that you see. I'll try to make the screen a little bit bigger. Here are the arrows that you see in here. Okay. Now, what I do is that I don't have it on like 4 here and just keep switching back and forth. What I do is I put it on 4 square because I got just 4 in here. Okay. And I set the profile to be like this. That's all I'm looking for, right? Each one of these is set to a 1-minute chart. Okay. Because we're looking for an entry point here. Okay. I have it pushed all the way to the beginning of the process, right? So it's all the way to the front. Let me make sure that each one is set to the front, which scroll to the chart to the beginning of tick coming, right? And then what I do is I have my mouse wheel, and when I click my mouse wheel, it gives me a crosshair, and I use that to kind of see where the arrow comes. Like that little sell arrow there is on the 0 mark, so I wouldn't get into that trade. Very easy, right? The Audi, I look at that one, it's too far away. There's no tick mark. There's no, what's it called? There's no arrow heading on the 3 or the 4, right? The 3, so at 2:33. Now on my server time on my chart, it says 2:33, but it's not 2:33, right? We're just looking at the minutes that are on the clock, right? So down the bottom there, you can kind of see if I let me see if I can let me see if I can do that. If I draw up now, it's not going to happen. But down the bottom, you know how to use Nadex. So down the bottom, you see right here there is a time period. So that one's on the 5, right? So I like this one right here, 2:34, that arrow showed up. So what I'm looking for now, I expand that screen out so I can get a better view. I'm looking up here at 103.44. I have a piece of paper that and a pad that I have to the side. I write it out if I'm in the way here. That's on the USD JPY. Okay. 103.44. Now remember, that's a sell. So 103.44, I'm looking for 133.46. And I don't now because I was talking, I really didn't see it expired or not expired, but it went out a little bit more. I didn't get in. I want to get in within the first minute of that expiry happening, of that system happening. So 1 minute into the like maybe just into the next minute. So I really didn't have an opportunity to get in there. So I wouldn't get into a trade. I'm not going to force something at the money. I'm not going to try to force something to happen, right? I could put a working order on that process and do that, but working order is sort of last result, right? And if you're not used to using them, don't use them right at that time, right? You want to use the tools that once you're used to using them and experiencing them, then use them. But don't just get into using a tool at that particular moment just because you want to make a trade happen. So since we know that that one's to happen, we just go back to our 4 square, square off on the process again. You can increase the size of the screen or what have you. Okay. And this will get us waiting to our 8 and 9 minute. Now it's on the 38 right now. So we'd be waiting to see if there's an arrow that comes out on the 38 or the 39, which we have to wait another 1 or 2 minutes. Now, while we're waiting for that, let me expand one out here. These dotted lines on the support and resistance are for temporary supports. They're weaker, right? But they still can be used if possible. So if you do get a signal that is underneath one of them, it is a great opportunity to be able to get something even closer to the money, right? And that's, but again, a little bit higher risk. If you want to see if they're like, so right now you can't really see an arrow or a support or resistance line. So what you could do is just zoom out a little bit, and there's one really heavy one that's really good there too. So you could use that one, right? And it's only about 1 or 2 pips off of where you would be getting anyway. All right, so we'll go back to the 4 square again. We'll see if there's anything that came out. There's one on the 6, not really good. Now again, getting them out on the 8 minute, getting them out on the 9, on the 3 and the 4 is really all about me creating the rule behind it. Are there times that it will work on the 6? Are there times that it'll work on a 5? The answer is yes, there are times that it will. But I notice that our higher success rates come when they're on the 8 and the 9 and the 3 and the 4. Nothing more. God, that rhymed, didn't it? I'm so pathetic. I made it rhyme. All right, so we're just sort of sitting here now waiting. There's one on the 8. It's the USD JPY. Again, expand the screen out. Again, I'm in here talking, and this thing's run amok, right? 103.46. Was that the same one from before? No, no, it's a new one. So it did take on. It showed up right here on this bar, so it kind of dropped almost 6 pips there. It did take off. So I'm pretty sure we're not going to be able to get into that one. But again, this is not about making every single trade work. You're looking for, um, there's not even one of 46 on there anymore. Okay, because you could come up to that point. Now, could you take one of these smaller ones? Absolutely, 103.43s. You add in 2 pips, 45. There is a 43 there. There's no 45 if you had that opportunity. Now, because it's deviated below one of the other supports, because now when it's above it, it's a support. When it drops down below, it becomes a resistance. Could you use that one? And the answer is yes, you could use that one. But again, not without testing, testing, and testing. Right? Can arrows be made larger? I will see if I can do that. And the answer is yes, they can be. I'll see if I can get that into the next release, which is happening here in a couple of days on that process. And I can look into making the actual arrows larger. I did so on this process because graphics and stuff that we put on the chart become a little bit too big and they start running into each other, especially when you have other devices and other things to be able to do that. So now, if we had gotten into this trade, let's just say we were able to get in and we got in for a good number. The call to actually scalp comes to me when this number starts to really run on. And if it was right here in this deviation, right, in this between this support or this resistance and this support, and it fell below and it was down here, and we still had like a minute left, a minute and a half left, I'm going to stay in. I'm not going to scalp out, even though I got a really good price on it. Now I'm going to kind of stay in. Right now, if it's within this, or maybe it comes up and it stops into here and comes into the live deviation, right, where it's between my strike and another process, I might think about scalping out. If it gets closer down in time, I might scalp out for a lower percentage, right? If I know that it's been really volatile all night and it moves 3 or 4 bars at a time, I might scalp out. But again, scalping is only for those that have a good sense of it. If you can scalp out and do so consistently and you're losing, sometimes the trade might end up in a losing position and you still won because you scalped out early because maybe it jumped up and then it fell out, right? So it's really up to you at that point. Absolutely. Just real quickly, we're on the 3s and 4s right now. I want to see if there is an arrow. At the when you're scrolling, if you got your mouse wheel, if you don't have the mouse wheel, you can come up here to the crosshair and you'll click that, or Control F, I think it is. Yep, Control F on the computer. It'll give you a line, a cross line, right? And down the bottom of the screen, if you can kind of see right here, there is a little box with a number in it, right? Each one of the bars too has a timestamp on it. So being that it's on the 1 minute chart, each one of these bars is 1 minute. Okay. And on a bar that's 1 minute, when this bar at 2:39, if an arrow came out on it, that would be what we call coming out on the 9. If the bar is at 2:36 or on the 36, that's on a 6. So you wouldn't take a trade on that. So any arrow that's on a minute hand of a 3 or a 4 or an 8 or a 9 is used for that direction for the following 5-minute period. Okay. It's very simple to follow once you start getting into it and you just start following that trend. So as you click on if you get your crosshairs on, it's real easy to check, even when you're in Foursquare. You just if you just keep the crosshairs on, it travels to each and every box, you see? So like this one is on the 242 on my screen there. It doesn't matter what real time it is because the minute hand is always going to be the same, right? So it's going to be 42 in London. It might be 242, but it's still 744 here. Got it? So very simple to kind of run into. The other thing to look at too is that your crosshair on the horizontal, it can be used now to quickly scan to see the price. So on Euro USD on the 1 minute, 10 or 1.1066, right? Even if you hover over that line, you'll get where it says DEX SR, DEX support and resistance. You'll see the second number down is 1.1066, and that you can hover in that point on that. So if you're unsure what it is, you can just go to it. And I made it so the boxes pops up so you can see it and don't have to click onto it. Even if you have just an arrow and not a crosshair, and you go over any of the support lines, it'll give you the number for that support line, even if you can't see it in the actual screen. Okay. I'm not seeing another one on the eights or the four or on the fours here. So it doesn't look like we can get into one here at this point. Now, because of the news, we know that this drives the market. Even if it's the Audi, the USD gets hit and it sort of jumps around what we call vacant news, because people are not trading the Audi, they're trading the others, and it kind of messes around with it. Michael says, just so you know, Max, and I don't know why 5-minute binary stop at 5:55 and start back up at the top of the hour. And anyway, I don't know if it's the same at night. Um, for some reason, I knew that was an actuality that they stop at the 55, but as of late, I don't know if they stopped doing that. I have to check with Dan Cook, because when I'm trading at all time, I guess I'm trading mostly at night. I traded one time during the day, so I didn't really see that happen. But at night, I didn't see them stop at the 55. We might be able to see that here in about 10 minutes if we're also here. But I don't think they do that anymore. I think they stopped doing it at a certain time, or maybe they do that just during prime time. I'm not sure. I know that they did that before because there was a lot of volatility with the 5 minutes club at the top of the hours. A lot of people were losing or doing something, or market makers were losing, or something was happening, and they took it out. But I think they've since then fixed it. Was that just recently, Michael, or was that a while ago? Let me jump back over to the screen to see if there's anything releasing here now. We're getting close to the 8 and 9 minute. About a month ago. I think this was just recently that they changed it. And when I said that on the webinar on, I think it was on Monday, every hour, no strike at 55. Okay. Well, I know that's, I definitely know there was some in there that were doing it. We'll see. We'll have to see. I think they may have changed it though, but let me check. We'll see here at the 55, because I know when I was trading at night, just the other night, I was on a 55 trade. Okay, so now we're on the 8 part of the minute, and if there's something going to show up, it's going to show up now. Well, it's not going to show up right now. It'll show up in another minute from now, or on the top of that minute. It's going to be something. I know when I was doing the training video on the first batch, there was 3 times that it happened, because over a period of 3 hours, it came back at that time period. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're not supposed to be there, because that's how I did the Trader's Mind. I've been trading and training people with Trader's Mind forever. But even if not, even having 11 an hour, 44 opportunities in an hour is still not too bad. Okay, we're on the 9, so if something's going to show up on the 8, it will do so here in this one, and nothing shows up on the 8. And we'll wait to see if something shows up on the 0, and we got to move fast at that point, because we want to still get in within that first minute. Now, realize too that being able to see the screen is not the best quality right now. If you don't have it expanded, maybe you're watching this on a pad or a phone or something like that. Don't worry about not being able to see all this stuff. All right. If you buy into DEX, if you want to come over to the DEX indicators, maybe you're already part of it. Maybe you're not. I'm not sure where everybody is at. I know I see a lot of familiar faces, but I see a lot of newcomers, and welcome to everybody. But buying into the process, checking it out. If it doesn't work out for you, I want to be able to offer you opportunities. But if you go in and you download the stuff and you get a lot of training, you do all that stuff, it's definitely, I'm going to have some gifts for you at the end too here. for anybody that's getting on and that wants to get on. We normally charge 147 a month for all of it. We're the only indicators company in the world that I know of that charges one monthly fee for all their indicators and all the stuff coming out for the future. So I know that this is a great opportunity for a lot of you. If you stick it out here, I'll give you a code here at the end to get in for 50% off, but not just 50% off your first month, 50% off for the life. Okay, so whatever you buy in, if you do get in early, help support us in the process. You're going to be getting into a process for um, helping us as we're developing everything, not just the 5 minutes because we have other signals we're developing, but every new one that comes on is just adding to your ROI every single day. So it's pretty powerful. Do the arrows repaint? Well, it depends on what your definition of repainting is, Mr. Mayfield. Um, Repainting in the suggestion that it doesn't go back and create winners out of losers. What it does is that I've created to where when you get the proper trend of that direction, it comes back one bar to place it to make that the signal bar. So it's not really repainting. It's saying that this is the bar that you use for your strike price. Okay. That's why I've done it. So it's not really, I could put it on this bar, okay, on the active bar, if you will. Like this one just came out on the 9. Hang on one second. USD JPY. Let me get this out here. USD JPY on 103.41. So we're looking at 103.43 right there. Let me get on that. I'm blathering away. I do apologize. Here we are. We're down into that, past that first minute. Sorry, I got distracted. But I wanted to answer the question. So the arrows don't really repaint. I could put it on the active arrow on the active bar, but the reason why I don't is because it's confusing to tell people to go back one bar and use it as the highlight of that process. So in all actuality, it doesn't, I can make it paint on the actual bar that it comes out that it's negotiating. So it's not really called repainting at this point. It's adjusting the arrows to show the actual confirmation bar, the bar you use for the strike price. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. Okay, let me get back into Foursquare again. I missed that one. And if you've noticed, I think the one that I was in there yakking at. Let me see which one was it. 7, 6. You see, like in this one right here on the Euro USD, we wouldn't have got into it. If this one was one we would have gotten into, immediately once this arrow showed up in the opposite, we would have gotten out. You see there's definitely a lot of news happening right at the moment. British pound, 45, 42, 49, 39. And see on this one happened on the 39. We would have came up to the 22.89 at that point, which should have been 22.89, which would have been right there. And definitely one at that point. Here's when it would have expired right here. It would have expired right to this point. So even if I would have used the tip of the arrow and went up 2 pips, we would have still won on that point. So was that the example of the trade reverse? What do you mean the trade reverse? Oh, on the euro on this one down here, we would have gotten out of that process. Yeah, I wouldn't do a reverse trade at that point, a revenge trade at that point. If it starts to come out and then you go up, I would really just let it lie and use it as an indicator for getting out of the trade, if you will. There is something to say for later on. Once you get to your 100, once you get through that process and get to 200, you simply there are so many, because remember you're collecting data, right? You're not just here to blather on about how many trades you can make and all that stuff. You're here to learn something and build on something. Okay. If you want to just follow signals, there's a million signals companies out there. If you want to train, there's a lot of training companies out there, a lot that make it very confusing. And this isn't the most squared away process that you're sitting and watching right now, But once you get into it, I'm a firm believer in getting you as much training as possible. There's consults, there's screen shares, there's a whole bunch of things that we can do. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. Um, but there's certain things that you could do. If you came into a trade and you had a good arrow, like this one here on the 8, and it deviates past the 1, you could come up to another and grab onto that process as well. And if it closes out below that deviation of that SR level, you got a great opportunity for a double trade, a pearl at that point. But keep in mind, this is why I say don't trade around and don't trade onto the news, is because if you got a quick jump up, you might lose both, right? But if you get into another one down here, get out of the first one you're in, scalp it out, okay? And then allow it to go on. That's why I also told you that later on in the second batch of 100, you would scalp out your first 3, leave 2 for expiry, and then if it passed the deviation, you could get into another 2, and there's that great possibility. But remember, sometimes they come down, and they definitely go down, they come out of the process, and if you put an expiry all the way down to here, if you choked it to this one, you might be in some trouble. But because it's an upper hole deviation, it'll rarely move that 2 deviation back up, okay? It might come back up and come underneath it, so you got to still use that 2 pip rule on a sell. All right, let's just hit and let's see if we can find one. By the way, it's past the 55 minute, and here, let me show you something. These are active, okay? We're in the 56 minute, see, and these are active. So I know that at night right now, right? Does everybody see that? I just want to make sure that everybody sees that these are active trades within the 55-minute period, right? I wasn't going crazy. You had me going there for a second. I thought I had died and gone to hell. But there you go. So within that deviation, you could actually add on another trade. It really sucks that we didn't get into one, and I really do wish I could just stay here all night and trade with this. I've done some trades earlier. I have put together the list of all the trades that I've done with the process, and I will be putting that into the process once I hit 100. Remember, I'm good at finding the strategy, finding the rules, setting the rules, following the rules, being disciplined in the process. I want to release all that 100 trades with the program, with everything else. If you folks want to get into the system and want into the process, head over to, let me get off this arrow here. Head over to the Nadex system, head over to, over to dexindicators.com or .net, dexindicators.net, and use the code DEX50. This will give you 50% off of the 147 for the life of your membership. If you get in, and maybe if some of you are new to the process and you don't know about Nadex, head over to dexsignals.com and use Nadex50 over there. Let me give you that one, right? Nadex 50. Now, this is only going to give you 50% off your first month. But go in there, and there is a Nadex Ninja series. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Or just look up Nadex on the internet and try to find ways to learn about trading. If you don't want to spend any money, do it for free. There's a whole bunch of situations in there as well. But head over to Dex Indicators. You would simply, there's a lot of little downloads and stuff. There's some training happening. If you have any problems whatsoever, hook into chat, call the number that's on the website, send emails. There's 50 different ways. We're a real company. We're real people. We're trying to make this thing work for as many people as possible. This is unheard of. Now, this code, and I hate to say this, we do have to make it stop by Friday. So this is not like there's only 50 spots left. I'm making this open till Friday because there are little things with the site. We're still testing and getting stuff on. We're building out some security systems with licensing and all that stuff. There's some nuances with the site. There's some nuances with the indicator. So if you see things like, I want you to get in there and test and get in there and see things. So the reason why we're giving you 50% off for life of it is because later on, it's going to be 147 after Friday. And after that, it could be definitely increasing, of course, right? And for every new indicator we're putting on, you're getting it for this lower price anyway, okay? So Amy put the link in the chat room there, dexindicators.net. If you have any problems whatsoever with the site, please don't run away from it. We are definitely around. We've had Dex Indicators in our city for more than a year and a half now. And in this industry, we're old men and women from that point. So I hope you learned some things tonight. I hope you've seen some things that you could definitely utilize. I'm going to stop the recording now. And like I do with all my webinars, I'm going to open up this questions and answers from this point. If you have any questions about trading, about the process, about anything, business, working from home, doesn't matter. We'll spend that time together. Okay. I'm Max Farrow. This is DexIndicators.net. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you inside and I want you to trade well. Good night.